Someone's been watching and listening through you.
You're telling me it's real?
That's a Wi-Fi signal streaming from your head. You were hacked.
Since the show has that near future Minority Report energy, I wanted to start with a fun one that we've been asking all filmmakers, actors this season. What is your favorite Spielberg movie? And this is something I think a lot of us have been having so many different answers for.
Oh my God. I feel like, did he direct Jurassic Park?
Yes.
I think Jurassic Park.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say E.T., but actually I think Jurassic Park I like more.
Mhm.
Even though there's so many good ones.
Mhm.
Even his West Side Story revival was amazing. I loved
Yeah.
seeing him take on a musical and the gorgeousness that he created. But I think I just have to say Jurassic Park.
You know, in keeping with sci-fi and those influences that are also felt in this series, do you have a favorite Christopher Nolan or Stanley Kubrick movie as well?
I feel like Inception. Inception blew my mind. Um, I just couldn't believe the execution of it was incredible, but also like the fact that he came up with that. I'm just fascinated by how his brain works.
Yeah.
And Kubrick, I mean, I feel like I don't know a lot of his movies.
Mm.
I feel like Clockwork Orange, that's a Kubrick movie, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's probably the only one of his movies that I've seen. So it would have to be that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. No, those are great answers and those are great movies. But yeah, Nolan, his mind is like a puzzle. I want to know, what's in there. Yeah,
Crazy, crazy.
great. If you, as yourselves, actually worked inside the orphanage, what would your spy skill be? Would you be like a human lie detector, the gossip intel hub, the one who has the most updates, things like that?
Mm. I think I would like to be a really skilled pickpocket.
Oh,
I don't think I have those skills
Uh-huh.
yet, but in a perfect world, that would probably be what I
Uh-huh.
would.
I would like to say I can make bodies disappear, but that's
Very
that's
dark.
probably not true. I have a really good memory of numbers, like a photographic memory of numbers. So I feel like that'd pay off. That'd give me some sort of promotion,
You're
maybe.
like the code person,
Huh?
like the person who taps in the codes and does the safe.
Yeah, sure. I'll be that guy. He
Yeah.
might get paid a lot.
Yeah.
That'd be very helpful. It's a great, you can also maybe play the lotto. Who knows? You could,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be a great skill. This is a show about people being secretly watched 24/7. So I have to ask, what would be the most interesting or boring thing hackers would find out about you during the holidays? An example is you will find me doing a 1,000 piece puzzle by the Christmas tree, which is not interesting at all.
Well, I'll tell you a little something that you'd find out if this camera was rolling about 20 minutes before we started this. I had this little Christmas tree, and I'm like, oh, that'll be nice to put in the frame, and I put it there, and it just kept falling over. So I just decided, no, I'm going to eliminate this from happening during the interviews. So that's the kind of boring, exciting stuff you'd see if you were watching me in my life.
If you were watching me in my life, you would have on Tuesday seen me realize that it was the one day that I had to get all the presents for family members on the West Coast. And I managed to get all of them. And then I misread
Uh-huh.
instructions for two kids. And so instead of having been able to mail everything this morning,
Uh-huh.
that I had
See,
to go switch out two presents.
Uh-huh. This is why hackers should not be hacking anybody because we just live our lives.
Yeah.
It's just
not,
normal.
Not very exciting.
Getting into spoilers now. I watched this show with my sister and my dad, and we're so interested to see where everything goes after those final moments because there's a lot now, especially with your character. So once we learn Michelle is the woman from the Copenhagen Test, the subway reunion in that finale, I feel like it hits so much harder now, especially when she's telling Alexander, when you're finally done with this life, come and find me. And I thought that was so sweet and it was moving. But like, what did that line mean to you about where she is emotionally now by the end of the season?
Well, it was interesting because I actually haven't seen the last episode. I don't know how the show ends now, because I know it's different from from the script that I had. Like the literal final beats, I mean. Like
Yeah.
obviously I shot that. There was an extra final beat that I was in that got scrapped, and then something else got put in its place, and I don't know what exactly it is, but I think in that subway scene, I had to decide how to play that, because I had to decide how much vulnerability there is in that moment, how much she's allowing herself to like do this thing that she's not supposed to do, like have that final contact with him. Is clearly something that she normally wouldn't do. She's done. Like she should be like out, but she decides to go back, and because it's Michelle and you never know what you're gonna get with her, I was like, is she trying to recruit him for something, or is she genuinely like telling him like, I've been through this. They say that they've got your back and they never do. If you want to know the real, come find me, you know? So it's like, is it honest, or is it with another intention? And I don't know how it came across to you, but I feel like I did a few different versions of a take, and I think the one that the director liked the most was like the vulnerable, like honest one that feels like she really kind of she likes him. She like ended up kind of like taking a liking to this man, and knowing that he's a good guy, and she wants to help him. And she knows that this mission, as much as they say that it's done, it's not. It's never gonna be.
Yeah, it read to me that like there was still a relationship there, and I want to see the two of you because you guys have great chemistry, by the way. Like I
Oh,
loved seeing
thanks.
you two together. Sinclair, Parker gets the job offer from St. George, and she really moves up in the orphanage. How did you want to play that moment when Parker realizes she's becoming maybe like the same system that manipulated Alexander? Is it maybe like her trying to be better than what St. George kind of laid the foundation for?
I think St. George in that moment is offering a promotion, but also an opportunity and a concession that they need to do better. I think that's important to Parker. Like, yes, I've always wanted to feel like I belong somewhere and that I'm good at something, but I also am realizing that I want to do good. I don't know that she really had that kind of aspiration before, but to be given the tools and the resources and the trust to do something good is actually what she's been searching for. So I think it felt, it feels good when someone looks at you and says they believe in you and they think you're the beacon of light to kind of charge forward.
Mark Kopp calls himself like a disgraced refugee of the orphanage when he's talking to Marlowe at the end, but he also states he's been undercover all along. And I'm wondering, how did you build a character who believes he's the hero even when the institution is so flawed and can't really be trusted? And he's sort of bordering back and forth. He's had this friendship now he's built with Simu's character Alexander, but then he's also now got like some motives that we don't really know exactly what's clear.
Yeah, I think, he gained a lot of confidence, I think, going forward, because before he was in so much mystery, it was so clouded because they are hiding something. The orphanage is hiding something, and that's not right. And while a lot of other, employees there might put their head down and just forget about it if they were to see something, it's like, no, I will not. I've given my whole life to this. So this has to be done correctly. Otherwise, my life has been wasted to some degree. So I think at the end, once he realizes the truth and he realizes the true nature of Simu's character, which is not someone who's going against his country, I think he now realizes a role he can have, Cobb can have, that it's different than what he thought before, but it's better. And now it's clearer, I think, for him.
Brian, Moira's gifting Alexander the watch in that finale. And essentially that remote is for his brain. And it's a huge emotional shift, I feel like, in their dynamic. Did you play that moment as like mentorship, as an apology, or is this now just like another form of manipulation going into season 2?
Well, I wouldn't call it manipulation. Moira wouldn't. I think I wouldn't see it as anything other than a step forward in the relationship. And believing in what I'm saying as a genuine thing is, look, this is your choice. we have this control, and we will respect your wishes. But maybe you can tell me what you want to do if you want to participate for the greater good. So I think there's, keeps the door open for kind of these two characters to stay in the cage, literally and figuratively, to be able to kind of play out this relationship. And there is so much to be explored with that kind of new wrinkle in the literal kind of control that they might have with Alexander's livelihood.
Kathleen, I would say St. George essentially crowns the next generation with, Parker, but I feel like, she sort of has the same moral compromises. It's sort of like maybe burdening her. Do you think St. George sees herself in Parker, or is she hoping Parker won't become her, or just something totally different?
No, I think she's hoping Parker will do the job better.
There's an interesting dynamic there to explore, especially, fingers crossed we get a season 2. How do you want to see that relationship transition, especially from maybe, this mentorship that Parker does look up to her, and she does really, take her her advice and her suggestions to heart?
Well, I think that I think that St. George, the secret of St. George's success is her ability to read people. Mm-hmm. And we see it 2 or 3 times in the course of the show. But early on, I think she chooses Parker as a possible future.
I wonder, now, because especially I know you said you didn't see the ending, but the finale does reveal that she is under surveillance. So I'm wondering, how do you see Michelle navigating this world now that she's out of the game, but she's still being monitored as a threat?
I think there's a part of her, she's very smart. I think she's always 2 steps ahead. And I think even though they told her, and the reason that she accepted this mission, the reason that she became Michelle is because they told her that after this, she could be out because she would be burned. And that, and then she could say goodbye to this life that she's sick of, because what other reason would someone have to say yes to a mission that will burn your face to the enemy, right? It means that you're basically going to be in witness protection afterwards. And the motivation behind a decision like that has to be something really, really big. And so I feel like there's a part of her that hopes that that's true, but she knows too much about this world to really believe that that could even happen. So I feel like in the end, when you see that she's being followed and she clocks that this person is following her, it's of course, there's never really going to be freedom.
Michelle ends season 1 with the new identity and a ton of unresolved history. So I'm wondering when we get season 2, which I want to will it into existence. I think it's important to talk about it in the future. What part of her are you most excited to dig into? Because I think there's so many layers there.
I want more of her. I want to know more of her. I want to know more of her history. I want to know more of who she really is. I think knowing this, because we only see her in this new life for a split second, right? Yeah. You don't know what it is, what she decided, what she picked. Yeah. And so I'm interested to if we get a season 2, when we get a season 2, to know what's going on with her and how she's going to reunite with Alexander. Are they going to be on the same team, or are they going to be on opposite teams?
The last scene, you said you didn't see the episode, but I will say when he's watching, he's very protective of her. And so I'm okay, it's not going to be obviously a damsel in distress, because you know your shit. I've seen I got to be there for the episode 7 when you guys are fighting in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That was so well done. And then finally seeing it, come together, and the actual scene was amazing, by the way. So great stunts on that. But no, I think you're going to have this him sort of helping, and then her kind of already telling him, I know what to do. So I'm very excited. I just
thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be
too. I'm excited too. Thank you so much.
Sinclair, Parker knows everything about Alexander, and it's a very parasocial relationship, which I think a lot of people in the world right now, social media, they can understand how that feels. He doesn't know she exists. And then by the end, even when they have that conversation, and they're between the wall, it feels very tender, but also he doesn't want to know who she is, what she looks like. How do you build a performance around a relationship that's so intimate, but it's very one-sided because you care, you have very intense feelings. He doesn't really know how you're feeling and he just thinks it's a job.
Yeah, it's very unrequited. It felt like at
Uh-huh.
sometimes it felt like I was straddling like forlorn lover or like younger sibling or like employee employer. Like the
Yeah.
relationship on any given day just felt it changed. And I think that how I was thinking about it was like not trying to get too bogged down in how I feel about him and just trying to learn him. And then obviously you learn how you feel about him while you're learning him. So it was kind of trying a push and pull of trying not to get too close, but also needing to be the closest anyone's ever been.
You know, that's so interesting because I feel like there was a scene where, when everyone's thinking he's flipped and you're still sort of like you're not doubting it, but you say at one point, if he has flipped, I'll kill him myself. And it made me think like, do you look at it as a job or do you actually have feelings? And so now I feel like that's kind of straddling both worlds. Like you
Yeah.
care about the job. So like, how does that feel for you, especially going into season 2 now and after that conversation they had?
It felt like a betrayal and also like disappointed in myself that I didn't see it coming, that Parker wasn't able to be good enough at her job to predict this. But also, it's kind of Alexander feels like her creation, and to have your creation defy you, it's deeply personal and a betrayal, whether he knows it or not. We've all, festered on a one-sided argument that we haven't really told somebody about. So I think that, yes, it's easy to say it's for the job, and I think that's probably true, but underneath it stings.
Mark, by the finale, Cobb goes from the guy who beat Alexander upstairs to the guy, sharing a drink with him in the end. And like, how did you and Simu build that journey from like the smug rivalry you had to something that actually feels like an earned friendship, at least for now, we can say?
Well, it's funny when you start a new series, everyone is finding their feet, and you don't get all the scripts. I didn't have all the scripts then. I didn't know exactly where it's going to go. So all you can really do is just know your character so well and know what they want and just play that scene. But play each scene as it comes. But as you start to get more scripts, it's a funny thing. You start to you can plant things to some degree. That's a kind of a rudimentary way of putting it, but you can sort of plant things when you know it's going to come. And I think one thing for me with Cobb and Alexander is that I do respect him. I do believe that he's really good. He's my draft pick of the whole thing. I'm like, that guy's really good. So as long as that's there, I think that creates respect for later down the line. So I don't actually look down upon him. I'm just happy when I'm doing better than him because he's so good. And I actually find it frustrating at times. So as long as that respect is there, I think it pays off later.
I will say for both of you, the season finale gives both Moira and St. George this long-awaited confrontations. Moira with the operation he seizes, and then St. George with Schiff. And that's been building up for so many episodes, and there's so much tension. When you both, read those scenes, what surprised you most about your characters handling those years of buried conflict, between those characters that you got to have interactions with?
Well, I guess the thing that comes to mind is the writing and what the writers are allowing the characters to contemplate. And what comes to mind for me as Moira is how the telescope the lens is getting wider in a way in terms of what his possibilities are with the orphanage's project of Alexander Hale and that relationship. All for the better, all for the pursuit of doing the right thing. So I just think that the scope gets larger, and I think that's very exciting for not only the character, but it's also for the actor, because the writers, Thomas Brandon and Jennifer Yale, are you can only imagine what could happen. So that's super exciting, I think, as someone inside it, and I'm guessing would be very, very exciting for the viewer, because they're getting the sense that, things are changing here, and things are morphing in a way that could lead to some really great drama.
I think what we get at the end of St. George's final conversations is her continuing commitment to solving this problem and saving the orphanage on the one hand, and on the other hand, her hope for, as we were talking about before, a better future, a better way to do this. So, and it's not clear that those two things aren't in conflict here.
For both of you, knowing where we leave your characters, one's rising up the ladder, the other one's sort of got some other motives with Marlowe now going on. What would you love to see explored in a possible season 2? And I'm fingers crossed. I'm so excited. I need to see more, because that finale really left me at the edge of my seat.
Yeah, based on the finale, I've said this earlier, I want to do combat. I don't know that there's a natural path to this, but based on how the show ends, they're going to need as much help as they can get. So like, I'm willing to suit up and go fight the good fight.
I want to be around the team. I'm always alone. I'm always just like out in the wilderness. I feel like alone. I want to hang out with everybody and figure out solutions.
By the finale, the orphanage's, never been compromised myth is shattered. We learned some things that I think everyone's going to be really, they're going to have to pick up their jaws from the floor. Where do you both think these characters stand going into season 2?
Well, perhaps Moira has a sense of security, or it could be a false sense of security. But I think he's very dedicated to the idea of upholding, like it says in the hallways, this place is dedicated to upholding a truth that is very fragile. I'm paraphrasing. I'm actually not saying it correctly, but the idea of wanting to do something right for the greater good, and this may be his blind spot. I don't know. I'm not. I don't have information that is leading me to say that. But I'm just sensing that that dedication, but also that kind of zeal with which he can see that maybe there's an opportunity to be seized here. That could be a weak spot for him as well. So I think it's always couched in the idea of these people, Moira in particular, wanting to do the right thing for the greater cause, but that sometimes can be very debatable as to those are the right roads to go down to, and that could lead to some internal crises for these characters.
And I think for St. George, there's an immediate problem to solve, and then there's the long view.
Yeah.
And it's a long view that if you're my age, which is St. George's age, you begin to think of, because it's somewhere, I guess maybe somewhere after 60, but certainly by 80, you realize you're not going to live forever.